All right, welcome in. It was the second full day of the offseason, and boy, does the NFL move quickly. It was a busy one. We just got done with a 20-game 49ers marathon with that NFC title game loss in Philadelphia on Sunday, and they hit the ground running fast in the NFL. This cycle never ends. I believe that we are bracing for the most eventful offseason in 49ers history. That's my prediction. And I was at the facility today. The second that I left the facility, news hit. News hit while I was there too. But the top news of the day was that 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans is now officially their former defensive coordinator. He is now Houston's head coach. So congratulations to DeMeco Ryans. Second interview with the Texans was today. They offered him the job on the spot. And the 49ers are now going to have to find a new leader of their defense. Kyle Shanahan will be on his third defensive coordinator entering year 7. And that's, I think, a good thing because that means that the previous two defensive coordinators have not gotten Kyle Shanahan fired and have not gotten themselves fired. They have both, in fact, found promotions elsewhere. First, it was Robert Saleh. He is now the head coach of the New York Jets. And now joining him in the AFC, it's going to be DeMeco Ryans as the head coach of the Houston Texans. Moving forward, that is going to have some domino effect because that means that DeMeco Ryans, just like Robert Saleh a couple years ago, and just like Mike McDaniel, former 49ers offensive coordinator last year, who's now the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, just like those two guys, you can expect DeMeco Ryans to try to poach some of his former colleagues from the 49ers staff onto his staff. And the Texans have asked permission to interview Bobby Slowick and Corey Undlin. Who's Bobby Slowick and who's Corey Undlin? Well, Bobby Slowick is the 49ers pass game coordinator, and he's part of the apparatus that works with the team's quarterbacks that's done a really, really good job this season. Officially, Brian Griese is the 49ers quarterbacks coach, but Bobby Slowick is right there doing QB drills, and as the pass game coordinator, obviously has a huge, huge impact and role in the development of the 49ers QBs, who are all very good this season. Corey Undlin, meanwhile, well, he did a really good job as the 49ers cornerbacks coach. Look how well the 49ers cornerbacks finished this season. Charvarius Ward and Diamond Lenore gave up a grand total of 2 combined catches for 16 yards in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's a team that features A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So Corey Undlin's done an excellent job with the 49ers corners. He is a candidate to be DeMeco Ryans' defensive coordinator in Houston. I'm guessing that Ryans, as a defensive mind, might still call plays or at least have a big hand in that, even as the head coach of the Houston Texans. So Undlin could be eased into that DC role in the same way that Mike McDaniel was eased into an offensive coordinator role with the 49ers in his final season, because even though he had that title, obviously Kyle Shanahan still called the plays. With Ryans leaving, the 49ers are going to have to find that third defensive coordinator of the Shanahan tenure, and they have set up interviews with 3 big names. Steve Wilks, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, was the interim coach after Matt Rule got fired this year in Carolina, after the 49ers got Matt Rule fired following that game against the Panthers. Think about the ramifications of the 49ers blowout against Carolina. Matt Rule fired the next day, and Christian McCaffrey traded within a couple weeks. So that was where the seeds were planted for 2 major moves. And Steve Wilks is the interim coach, Panthers defensive coordinator to begin the year. Wilks now is interviewing for that 49ers defensive coordinator position because they have a vacancy with DeMeco Ryans, now the head coach of the Texans. So you've got Wilks, you got Vic Fangio, who obviously should be a familiar name. He was once the 49ers defensive coordinator, and he was a great one at that under Jim Harbaugh for those 4 seasons from 2011 to 2014. Fangio runs a 3-4 typically. I know the 49ers run a 4-3, but I think that the 4-3 wide 9, a lot of the principles are the same. They both require strong defensive tackles. They both want to roar around the edge. If they do hire Vic Fangio, which might actually be something that happens, considering that reports said that Fangio was joining the Dolphins just a few days ago, but now reports say that is not finalized and Fangio is going to interview with the 49ers. It's almost like this thumbnail that I recommended that Mike make at some point. Maybe he will make it a lightsaber battle between Mike McDaniel, the apprentice, and Kyle Shanahan, the master, fighting over Vic Fangio. You know, in Star Wars, you got Palpatine sitting on the chair. I know it's not the best comparison, but Fangio could be like Palpatine sitting on the throne room chair, and then you've got Vader and Luke. So I guess Shanahan would be Vader, and Luke would be Mike McDaniel, and the lightsabers would obviously be meeting there in front of Vic Fangio. That's the battle going on right now. Can the 49ers grab Vic Fangio, or the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel get him? And then there's Chris Harris, who's the DB coach of the Washington Commanders, also in the running, at least in the interview process, to be the 49ers defensive coordinator. All right, then the 49ers, after a lot of this news came out, began their offseason work. They began the offseason roster rebuilding process. 10 new reserve future contracts were awarded, including Jason Poe, who's probably the most recognizable name out of that group. So here's the full list that was re-signed today. These are practice squatters, young practice squatters who were signed to reserve future contracts, which essentially means off-season contract for this season. It's still going to be an uphill battle for them to make the 53-man roster next year, but we don't have cut-down day now for another 7 or 8 months. So defensive lineman Alex Barrett, been with the 49ers practice squad for a little bit now. Offensive lineman Alfredo Gutierrez, international exception player for the 49ers here over the past 2 seasons. He's going to be on the 90-man roster in the offseason. Safety Taylor Hawkins, fast safety that was with the 49ers this year out of San Diego State. Offensive lineman Keith Ishmael was also on that practice squad this season. A San Francisco native is Keith Ishmael. Defensive back Quantrez Knight, exciting player out of UCLA, kind of a Swiss Army knife potential in the secondary. Impressed the 49ers this year as one of their special teams players of the year, along with Jason Poe. He is back with the 49ers this next season. Tay Martin, receiver, also back. So is Daz Newsome. Curtis Robinson, who was on the 53 for part of this year, practice squad for the end of it, Stanford product, is going to be back. And offensive lineman Leroy Watson, former tight end in college, teammates with Spencer Burford at Texas San Antonio, has his tenure with the 49ers prolonged. The surprising omission from this list is Marcelino McCrary-Ball, the linebacker out of Indiana. Not sure what's going on there. Going to check with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch on that tomorrow. But essentially every young practice squatter was signed to a reserve future deal except for McCrary-Ball. The veterans like Janoris Jenkins, Michael Dwumfor, those guys might be brought back, but not on these initial reserve future deals. These were the young guys that the 49ers were re-signing. So in totality, the 49ers now have 45 players under contract and at about $225 million in liabilities. Now, the raw cap number for this season is $224.8 million. So that should give you an idea of how tricky this offseason is going to be for the 49ers. They're going to get some carryover money, so they're probably going to have a little bit of a cushion, but only 45 under contract. You still got to sign more to fill out the roster. Only the top 51 contracts count in the offseason, so 6 more will count, but the 49ers are still probably going to have to find a way to get under that salary cap through restructures, extensions that push money back into the future, you name it. But they have some expensive business on tap, and potentially including Mike McGlinchey and Robbie Gould, both pending free agents who I talked to in the locker room today, both uncertain about their 49ers future. It appears that both Gould and McGlinchey want to be back, especially McGlinchey has straight up said that, but obviously both pricey propositions here for the 49ers. And especially considering their tight cap situation, they're going to have to make sure that they squeeze as much bang for the buck out of the situation as possible. Also from the locker room today, I told you guys this was a busy news day, by the way. So this is also from the locker room. Trey Lance expects to be fully cleared in 3 to 4 weeks. That's big news because yesterday, we were making a big point out of the fact that the 49ers don't have any healthy quarterbacks as we currently speak. And the fact that at least one of them who's under contract, and that's Trey Lance, does expect to be fully ready for the offseason program, that does give the 49ers a little bit of a head start moving into this offseason. So the injury to Brock Purdy in Philadelphia, and Purdy, by the way, is still studying his elbow treatment options. That's shaken up the 49ers quarterback room again. And as of right now, I know the 49ers are going to probably bring in a veteran, probably draft somebody. We'll see what they do. You can talk about Tom Brady or Derek Carr until the cars come home, but until the cows come home, not the cars. You could talk about those two guys over and over and over again, but until the 49ers actually make a move on that front, Trey Lance is the only QB currently under contract for 2023 that is projected to be healthy for the offseason program. So we should view him as such, and we should put him in that number one role for now until proven otherwise. He was number one entering last season, and I expect Trey Lance to be number one entering this offseason program until if and when the 49ers bring in a veteran that would unseat him. Anyway, 49ers in that locker room. This is locker room pack-up day today, and I have a lot of content from that. This is part of this little news report. You can go elsewhere on the 49ers, on my 49ers YouTube page here, and see a ton of content. That's our live stream right in front of me. But look, Jake Brendel, fascinating interview. Fred Warner, good stuff. Robbie Gold on the 49ers update that I made from the field. Maybe that's the one I did from the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, I did one from the Golden Gate Bridge, one from the field. We got Trent Williams on there, who was actually in a walking boot and crutches today, but he said it wasn't serious. Another update, George Kittle talked today. That's good stuff. Mike McGlinchey. There's Brock Purdy. There's Nick Bosa. I mean, there is content after content after content. And, of course, a big interview with Trey Lance as well. Then I talked about the good news this morning. Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir finishing up the season strong. So make sure that you see all that. It was indeed a loaded day. And that was just inside the 49ers facility. NFL news, the Denver Broncos traded a lot for Sean Payton, the head coach who's no longer coaching for the Saints, but who still owned his rights. Denver traded major draft capital, including a first-round pick to New Orleans for Sean Payton to be their coach. And this is also tied into the 49ers because it was reported that Denver made a last-minute push to try to grab DeMeco Ryans this morning. Ryans rebuffed them, probably didn't want to coach Russell Wilson. That seems like a sinking ship. Maybe not with Sean Payton. But anyway, DeMeco Ryans decided to go to his former team, who he played for, in Houston instead. And then Denver, after being rebuffed by DeMeco Ryans, traded for the rights to hire Sean Payton. Now, the first-round pick that they sent initially belonged to the 49ers back in 2021. But that year, they traded that first-round pick as part of a package to Miami to move up to number 3 to draft Trey Lance. Then Miami sent that pick to Denver to grab Bradley Chubb, the edge rusher. So after a lot of changing of hands, that pick has become number 29 overall this season because the 49ers finished in the NFC Championship game. So it's a low first-round pick, and that pick goes from Denver to New Orleans. So the pick starts with the 49ers, goes to the Miami Dolphins, moves from the Dolphins to the Denver Broncos, and now moves from the Broncos to the New Orleans Saints. And the Broncos now will have a new coach in Sean Payton. The overall cost for that, a 2023 first, which is the pick in question from the 49ers, and a 2024 second rounder. The Broncos get a 2024 third rounder in return. Unbelievable changing of hands here between Russell Wilson, who cost a whole boatload. Like Mike sent me how much Russell Wilson cost. The Broncos, here's a Russell Wilson cost. Quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 2022 fifth-round pick for Russell Wilson and a 2022 fourth-round pick. So Wilson was massively expensive, and now the coach is also very expensive because he's commanded a couple of draft picks. So between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, which is kind of the battery, the brain trust of this Broncos offense, there is a lot of cost, a lot of sunk cost for Denver. So it better work out for them better than it did last year, or there will really be some heads rolling in the Mile High City. So wild day of 49ers news, because even the NFL news pertained to them. Whew, that was a lot. Make sure you sub to The Athletic. You got a lot of stuff on there, including our discussion of the 49ers QB situation, which is Kafka-esque. But what a busy day it was. Why don't I open this up to a Q&A? Let me make a text title for it and delve into your questions. You guys like that news update? It took me 14 minutes to get through everything. That's impressive. That's how much happened today. All right, let's hear your questions. I have opened them up. I'm ready for them. Let's go. Well, if you missed the entire show, you could replay it. That's the great. I don't think you missed the entire show. I'm still on right now. I'm hungry. I'm gonna have to go get a burrito before they close. I was too busy to Get one earlier today. Got a big piece on Mike McGlinchey running tomorrow morning. As you saw, all the content from the 49ers locker room is up. By the way, 11:30 tomorrow, I am headed back to the facility. Lynch and Shanahan will speak for the final time this season. We'll wrap up this season formally. So we are at the end of the road. 20 games plus 3 preseason games, so 23 games plus training camp. Training camp counts for at least 7 games. I mean, the grind that we put into that. It's been a hell of a journey, my friends. Channel's a lot bigger than it was at the start of this. It's been good. This we don't know. They got to bring in another quarterback because you need 3 or 4 to work during camp. So they're going to bring in another quarterback. But I think that your question is, are they going to bring in a high profile quarterback? And Purdy's no guarantee to be ready by camp. The hope is that he's going to be ready, but he's no guarantee. So I think the 49ers are going to have to spruce up some depth for this offseason. I'm not sure that Chris Kasarik wants a defensive coordinator position. That's one of those guys that seems to be just wired to yell and coach on that defensive line. What an awesome D-line coach he is. I got a chance to say hi, say bye to Chris Kasarik today in the locker room. If I had to speculate who the defensive coordinator would be, I think it'd be Fangio, because speculation tells me if the deal with Miami was close to being done, but then he backed out of it because the 49ers weren't sure what they're going to do, he might want to come to the Bay Area, where I know he still does have some ties. Insiders percentage on Fangio coming to the Niners, I'd say 60 to 70. But there still is some work to be done on that front. So 60 to 70 means I'm not sure. I'm just telling you what I think might happen in this situation. No, Trent Williams, I do not think is retiring. He just gave an honest answer about the toll which playing in the NFL takes. I'm looking here for some more questions that I want to answer. All right, this is a good one right here. Why was a backup tight end blocking an NFL sack leader when Purdy went down? Okay, so this is something I talked about with a lot of guys in the locker room today. There's been a lot of misinformation about this, acting like this is not a common thing. Guys, tight ends block edge rushers in play action concepts a lot of the time. Jake Brendel, 49ers center, estimated that 90% of teams run a concept, play action wise, where a tight end has to block an edge rusher. On top of that, Tyler Kroft didn't do the worst job against Hassan Reddick. He did slow him down. The problem on that play was twofold. A, I have the screenshot. Let me get the screenshot. We have to have the screenshot to fairly talk about this. But this would have counted on a little bit of a quicker release from Brock Purdy. And, I get it. It's hard to blame Brock Purdy. He got hurt on the play. Everybody's happy with how he toughed it out, right? I mean, that was courageous from Brock Purdy, but he's also a rookie. And it was also a situation where I think in the future, once he heals up, it's going to be a situation where he does release the ball a smidge quicker, and that probably changes the whole entire play. I'm going to blow this up and put it big on the screen for everybody, so you have a look at exactly what happened as we dissect this play. All right, screen grab, put it up top. All right, let's get it up on the screen. There we go. All right, so this is at the time of release, or there was no release. It was just a fumble. But here you have Hassan Reddick roaring around the edge. You have Fletcher Cox had eventually worked his way around Mike McGlinchey. On the right here, you have Javon Hargrave, who did find a way to beat Aaron Banks. Trent Williams has taken care of his man, but otherwise the pocket is quickly collapsing. Look at Brock Purdy, though. He's got a split second here to release the football, and he's looking for Brandon Ayuk, who is coming out of his break here, and Ayuk is open. If the ball comes out right now, Brandon Ayuk has a big gainer. Might even have a touchdown. Who knows? Might only have to beat the safety on the rest of the field if the ball leads Brandon Ayuk. So we can establish from a still shot here that this ball, Brock Purdy did attempt the throw a little bit late. But as further context, here you see Tyler Kroft on the ground because Reddick had roared around him. If you watch the actual replay, Kroft does slow Hassan Reddick for a split second. That split second is what should have allowed Brock Purdy to get the throw off, but he didn't. It's unfortunate. You can't throw Purdy under the bus. Sometimes bad stuff is going to happen, especially when you have a rookie starting an NFC title game. But the fact that the 49ers ran this play action concept from Ayuk open, and they've hit several big plays like this all year. The difference on this play, and it was illustrated to me by both Jake Brendel and Mike McGlinchey, is that Philadelphia gambled. Philadelphia gambled big time against the run. This was a play action concept for the 49ers. There was a play fake, and Philadelphia, not against the run, they gambled against the pass. Philadelphia did not honor the 49ers play fake. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they're a team that rushes with its ears pinned back more than anybody else in football, and they roll the dice. That's why they have a league-leading 70 sacks, or had 70 sacks entering this game before they got to the 49ers even more often in this football game. So what happened here is, because they didn't honor the fake, they're able to get to Purdy with Hassan Reddick, a true speed rusher, quicker than the 49ers and Purdy anticipated. And Purdy thought that the fake would stave Reddick off for at least half more second. It didn't. He didn't take a peek at him, and he got drilled, and obviously it caused a fumble, and he tore his UCL. But the lone act of Hassan Reddick being blocked by a tight end is not unusual in NFL schematic circles. In fact, anybody who says that it's completely unusual is just telling on themselves as not knowing schematic patterns in the NFL. Again, 90% of teams are going to run something like this. It just so happened that this one time, Philadelphia was rushing with their ears pinned back, even though the 49ers were running play action. And because of that, the 49ers left themselves very, very exposed. Is it unfortunate? Yes. Could the 49ers have countered that a little bit better? Possibly, but this is still early in the game. It was first possession, right? They're still running their base package stuff. So they're actually trying to be aggressive and take a shot downfield when Philadelphia is not expecting it, but Philadelphia just happened to be gambling against it. They said, boom, 49ers might take their shot here. I think it was second down. They decided to roll the dice. They're a team that does roll the dice, and they beat the 49ers in the chess match of that one play. It had disastrous effects for the 49ers, but we can't pretend like what they did was complete malpractice. They just got beat on a play, and it had disastrous ramifications. That's going to happen sometimes in football. It's a tough sport, and the 49ers were victimized by it. All right, so hopefully that explains what happens on that play. And right here, A Nightmare on Any Street says that was a prime example of Brock holding the ball not even a second too long, maybe a split second too long. And it's going to happen. I'm not throwing Purdy under the bus because he's a rookie, and he did such a great job for the 49ers this year, but he'll be the first to tell you he's got to get that ball out a little bit quicker. And it's also a play where, gosh, even if you talk about his ability or his need to get the ball out a little bit quicker, it would have been hard to do so just because Philadelphia was playing a little bit out of character there. Even though they were so aggressive all season, that was a base formation in which run would have been expected. And if you're Brock Purdy, you do expect them to bite at least partially on the play fake. Give the Eagles credit. They did not bite on the play fake. Yes, Jimmy's quick release was needed there. Garoppolo probably would have had a little bit more pocket awareness, probably would have stepped up in the pocket. It's all water under the bridge at this point. 49ers have to recover from the ramifications. Sometimes bad stuff happens. It's sports. We can't be crybabies about it. We just have to analyze it, move on. Both teams are paid to play this game, and the Eagles were paid to gamble in that situation, and the gamble paid off for them. Kyle Shanahan did not throw the red challenge flag because he thought, based on the quick look up on the scoreboard, that there was a catch. That was a mistake. Shanahan should have either called for the challenge to happen. He should have thrown the red flag, or he should have called timeout. I think he should have called timeout because first half timeouts aren't that valuable. Let's be honest. What are you going to do with a first half timeout? Not going to save the game with it. One of your 3 first half timeouts has to be used in a situation where the leverage is at such peril, right? That play, fourth down, 49ers would have gotten the ball in a scoreless game had they stopped the Philadelphia Eagles near midfield. Instead, the Eagles were ready to make that 7-0. And we saw what the lead did for Philadelphia. Getting a lead early on allowed them to do this, allowed them to rush with reckless abandon. If the 49ers do challenge that play, keep Philadelphia from scoring there, I don't think this play happens. I don't think this happens in a scoreless game. I don't think that Hassan Reddick pins his ears back and acts like the 49ers aren't even threatening to run the football if it's 0-0. But since it is 7-0, Reddick takes a gamble to knock Purdy out of this game. The gamble pays off. Boom. There's your domino effect that absolutely punished the 49ers. So Shanahan should have thrown the red challenge flag. At the very least, he should have called timeout to buy more time. That was a critical error in this game, and it will haunt the 49ers for a very long time. Again, they screwed up. People screw up every day in their line of work. This is one that Kyle Shanahan messed up. Should he be fired over it? Of course not. You'd have to be an idiot to think that. But he screwed up, and it cost the 49ers major momentum at the start of the NFC Championship game. You're going to get more than weekly videos from me during the offseason. You're going to get daily videos from me during the offseason. So hit that subscribe button. Good question, but they're going to happen more than once a day. In fact, at the spot for the offseason, setting up a nice little background studio with some jerseys and stuff. It's going to look, everything about the channel's moving up. I mean, we had these 2 jerseys this year. I'm so sorry, guys. You're not going to be able to see the back of this jersey, unfortunately. I know everybody wants to see the back of this jersey. Nah, not going to show you because the 49ers didn't win the Super Bowl. But anyway, we got some frame jerseys. Going to move up with that. Lighting. Lighting is really good now, but the background's going to be cooler. Not going to be in the little San Francisco studio that I have for the season. Maybe back here next year. Maybe back in a new spot in San Francisco next year. We'll see how that works. But anyway, the videos are going to be coming very, very frequently. You don't need to worry. I think Bosa will be signed. It might take a while. Be patient about that, but that's going to be one of the primary orders of business this offseason. Hell yeah. I like to hear this. Patrick subbed to the Athletic because of me. Speaking of that, subbing to the Athletic, let me get this up on the screen for everybody. This is the latest article. There's going to be more coming tomorrow with Mike McGlinchey, who's getting married this offseason and is going to have 17 groomsmen in his wedding. I'm also getting married this offseason, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin that. Christian McCaffrey, though. Here you go. This article on McCaffrey, I just put into the chat section. Go ahead and check it out. Yeah, I am getting married just like Mike McGlinchey this offseason. McGlinchey is getting married on July 6th. I think July 6th. My date is May 6th, the day after my birthday. So anyway, talked a little bit about Mike McGlinchey's future, some interesting tie-ins to him getting married this offseason, potentially wanting to stay in the Bay Area. And we'll see if the 49ers have themselves a right tackle for the next few years, because right now they don't have a starter under contract unless they decide to make that starter next year. Colton McKivitz. How much money does Mike McGlinchey command? I think Rob Havenstein from the Rams, who signed in September, might be a good comp. He was $11.5 million per year. McGlinchey maybe a little bit more than that. He's slightly younger than Havenstein. Was a bit better of a pass protector this season. McGlinchey's improved a lot, especially in terms of pass protection over his time with the 49ers. So they like him. He likes them. We'll see if they can come to a financial agreement. But again, it's going to be a crowded offseason for the 49ers, especially with that salary cap situation. So they're going to have to find a way to figure that out with a lot of outstanding financial needs coming for this team. Nick Bosa, obviously the headliner of that list. Javon Jennings, aside from needing more looks in the 49ers offense, is going to need a contract to be with this team next season. I do. I'm actually going to be driving to Visalia tomorrow. And then I'll be going through Fresno tomorrow. That's a good question. Thank you. I appreciate that, Lisa. Congrats on the wedding. Yeah, after the season's over tomorrow. So the last Lynch Shanahan availability is tomorrow. So I'll be headed down in that direction. All right, guys. That's about it. time for me to go get some dinner. I wanted to run a half-hour show today. The half-hour show will do it. Thank you to everybody. This was a nice little 49ers Q&A. We went through all of the news today. I said buckle up for the wildest 49ers offseason yet, because that's exactly what it seems like it's going to be. Didn't have any time to rest. DeMeco Ryans is now Houston's head coach. The Texans, with DeMeco Ryans as their head coach, have started their rating process of the 49ers staff, which we have seen in the past with Saleh and McDaniel with the Jets and the Dolphins. Bobby Slowick, 49ers pass game coordinator, and Corey Unlin, their cornerbacks coach, will probably interview with Houston. 49ers are going to interview Steve Wilkes, Vic Fangio, who used to work for them, and Chris Harris to be their defensive coordinators. 49ers have signed 10 players to reserve future contracts with them. These are the 10. I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. They include Jason Poe, Barrett, Gutierrez, Hawkins, Ishmael, Knight, Martin, Newsome, Robinson, Leroy Watson, and Jason Poe. Trey Lance spoke in the locker room. He expects to be fully cleared in 3 to 4 weeks. Big news for the 49ers. Brock Purdy, meanwhile, still studying elbow treatment options. And I talked about McGlinchey and Gold, both of those guys. It's still up in the air, and it probably will be until around the NFL Combine when the 49ers decide what they're going to financially do next season. Busy day of NFL news. The Sean Payton trade involved one of the Trey Lance draft picks that used to be with the 49ers. Jimmy Ward is on Instagram Live right now. Oh, that's crazy. I got to get Jimmy on this show. He could talk about it there. So Jimmy Ward's on Instagram Live right now, and he said that the 49ers offered him a contract before the season, but it was less money that he's making currently. And I think Jimmy's making about 10 to 11 million per year currently. So that gives you an idea of the 49ers cap situation. I don't think can afford to pay Jimmy Ward double digits per year if Mike McGlinchey is going to make that much. I don't even know if they want to pay Mike McGlinchey that much. They may go with the cheaper option, Colton McKivitz. It's going to be tough to fit everybody here because this becomes a roster that's more and more star heavy with every passing season as far as money goes. Deebo Samuel got paid last offseason. Obviously, you have Nick Bosa in line this offseason, maybe Brandon Ayuk in the future. So the 49ers, on top of all the other contracts before that, Trent Williams, George Kittle, they're not paying the QB, but they're paying essentially everyone else. So Jimmy Ward on his Instagram Live, good information. I'm going to hop on that right now, see what Jimmy has to say. All right, everybody take care. Thanks for watching. Sub to the channel. We will talk to you soon.